Hey, what's up? This is Kaiser. You're, of course, listening to me on Super Trainer. And today I've got one of the top people in the fitness industry here on the phone with me. It's Bedros Keuilian. What's up, Bedros?
Hey, Kaiser, how are you, buddy? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Like I said, you're one of the top dogs in this business, and it's not just from a training angle. I mean, you did make your chops as a trainer, but now it's from helping other trainers expand their businesses, and just in general laying out the whole financial game plan for overall wealth. That's what you're known for. How did all this how did all this come about? How did all this happen?
You know, that's a good question. All this happened about probably 10 years ago when I was struggling to get my personal training business off the ground, and I was fortunate enough where one of my clients who happened to be in the mortgage industry handed me a Tom Hopkins tape. And Tom Hopkins, for those that don't know, is one of those old school sales gurus, and he talks about, closing strategies and how to overcome objections. And to me, that was like an aha moment. It was like this awakening. Before, when I was lucky enough to sit across from a prospect, I would literally vomit out a whole bunch of information and hope that person in front of me would cling onto something, would resonate with something I said, and say yes to an order. Well, after listening to that tape from Tom Hopkins, I realized that, people have emotional triggers and so on, and they have hot buttons, and if you can kind of appease to those hot buttons, you can move people through compliance into making a buying decision. And so I went from being just a lousy salesperson or a trainer who's trying to be a lousy salesperson to what I call the assistant buyer. Mm-hmm. Well, that Tom Hopkins tape led to a Brian Tracy tape and books from Zig Ziglar, and before you know it, 2 years had passed, and I had 2 personal training facilities, and that morphed into a total of 5. And the trainers were coming out of the woodwork asking me how I've got 5 facilities when they can't even get one started. And it was around 1999 that I started, 1999, 2000, that I started writing the PT business course. It was just my step-by-step journey on how to market and how to sell personal training. And from there, it all kind of snowballed into what we have today.
Yeah, and some pretty amazing stuff that you're offering. And yeah, that is a real major breakthrough once you realize that sales, a lot of this stuff, it can be broken down into a science, and it can be learned. You have, just for the general trainer, the trainers that I reach through my blog, you have some real good products for them, things to talk about closing a sale. What do you have that can really help the trainer that's still very hands-on, still face-to-face with his clients?
Yeah, well, one of the the top 2 things for those face-to-face trainers is my PT business course, which is literally kind of grassroots marketing. In other words, if you're a trainer, you work in a gym, how to run a fishbowl. One of the ways when I did personal training inside of a gym, one of my main ways for getting clients was literally putting a plastic fishbowl in a women's locker room that had a little form that they would fill out, what are the top 3 body parts you want to work out or you want to change, and then you can enter a drawing to win a week of personal training. And now this never worked really well when I put a fishbowl in the men's restroom, because when you put a fishbowl in the men's restroom and say, what do you want to change about your body, you get some very interesting comments.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty colorful, but man, it worked like gangbusters when we did this in the women's locker room, and we get 10, 15 leads a week, and we call everybody up and say, one person would win a week, and then everybody else would win a free training session because they didn't win that week, and then at the end of that training session, we'd go through the consultation. So that's just like one thing that I covered in my PT business course. Another thing I covered is what I call belly-to-belly, which is how to approach someone in the gym. You never want to approach them when they're working out. You don't want to screw up their workout, but you still need to approach them to make that sale or at least to get that process going. So I cover the belly-to-belly system. Another great thing that I cover in there is what I call marker board promotions. I would put up little marker boards in the health club that I worked in, and I'd say, 6 p.m. Wednesday night, we're having an abs and butt class. It's 20 minutes. We're only taking on 15 people. register here at the personal trainer desk, and I'd have a little roster going. And everybody, I'd take them through like 10 or 15 abs and butt exercises, and then I'd say, hey, since you guys are all kind enough to show up, let me give each of you a one-on-one training session with me over the next week. And again, all those would lead into sales. So all of that grassroots stuff is in my PT business course. And in it is also very high-end marketing tactics like direct mail and internet marketing stuff and list generation, the two-step marketing system. But the other thing that works really well because, well, if you can market but you can't close people, you're going to have a lot of people walking away from you, is my closed clients DVD. And that happens to be one of my hottest selling products. And it's literally the exact script and formula, including the diagrams that I would draw to sell people on $3,500 to $7,000 training packages. And I think those would be a great system for anybody who's just starting out in the industry or wants to kind of go from selling small blocks of sessions into those multi-$1,000 programs and doesn't know where to start.
Yeah, I really have no problem bringing up your products or you plugging any of your stuff because I've experienced some of them and I know what you're about. I know it's really real good, high quality stuff. Now, that's good that you have info on trainers on how to cope with and kind of make their way in the health club setting. Because for a lot of us, that is where we got our start, and you kind of have to get your feet wet there. Now, I'm the guy that helps people get out of there and to dump the gym and to get out on their own. Now, you kind of take it to another level once they're on their own and they've got themselves established and they know how to train clients and they have a full roster. They're charging high rates. You help them reach that next level. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny, and maybe you've experienced this. I know I sure have when I was personal training. When I was making under $100,000 a year, there was almost this glass ceiling, man, where it seemed like, gosh, $100,000 was unreachable. If I ever reach $100,000, I'll have made it. And to me, that six-figure mark was so incredible. But I was always butting up against this glass ceiling. Even when I left the gym and went out on my own and was doing in-home personal training, and this was before the whole boot camp craze, I just couldn't hit that six-figure mark, the $100,000 mark. Interestingly, when I started charging more and started niching, in other words, focusing on a very specific market and not being a personal trainer to everybody, I instantly broke through that glass barrier of $100,000, and something happened. Once I was able to make $100,000, the next $100,000 came easier. And then the next $100,000 after that came easier. It's almost like I had a mental block. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I realized that there wasn't anything other than my mental block of I'm not sure if I have what it takes to make $100,000. It had nothing to do with my marketing or selling. I was probably putting all these barriers in front of me to justify